I thank the gentleman and now yield 3 minutes to my friend from California, Mr. Scott Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, this is just, from a budget perspective, a disaster for the United States. Despite the flowery language you hear, every year, this country has been racking up $2 trillion of debt because we don't pay our expenses. And that means that the deficit, the national debt, unless we do something about that, will grow from 36 to 38 to 40 to 42. And despite all the cuts you hear about, none of them are applied to lowering that annual deficit number that adds to our national debt. Not any of them. Because they literally, by the order of this committee, were directed to be used to offset the cost of extending and adding new tax breaks for people, okay? So that's why this does not reduce the debt. In fact, the independent analysis of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says that over the next 30 years, this will add $37 trillion to the national debt, $37 trillion. It doesn't reduce the debt, it doesn't reduce the deficit. Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, says we need to get our deficits down to 3% of GDP to dig out of this hole. Today, without this law, that's going to take about $7 trillion of savings and revenues over the next 10 years. There's nowhere near any of that that's going on here. But when you add in the cost of this bill, this budget-busting bill, that number goes to $11 to $12 trillion we're going to have to save over the next 10 years. This is not going in the right direction at all, no matter how convicted they sound over on the other side. There are alternatives. First of all, this is their bill. This is the way they wrote this bill in 2017 for these things to expire. Democrats had nothing to do with the expiration of these tax cuts. That's how they wrote it in 2017. Okay, they voted for this. But you have alternatives, because if you look at the tax rate from 37 to 39.6 would be incurred on who? On people who earn more than $610,000 a year. Those people aren't working for the $2 per $100. Those people can afford that tax increase, and it would raise $402 billion to help close the gap. When the Republicans lowered the corporate rate from 35%, which so many people in here agree was too high, to 21%, that went well past what the Republican Ways and Means Chair Dave Camp was asking for. He was asking for 25%. If you raise that up again to 25%, as the Republicans wanted back then, that's $500 billion. And the tax cap, Republicans don't even want to enforce the tax laws we have without raising a single rate. The tax gap, the difference between what we owed and what we collect is $697 billion. And what are we doing about that? We see DOGE cutting IRS's ability to collect those things. This is irresponsible. It's the wrong thing to do for budget. We need a bipartisan process that deals with, honestly, with revenues and cuts. We don't have it. Please vote this down. I yield back.